As an English priest, Father Maskell, put it, it is the basic assumption of the secularist movement in Christian theology that life is a journey between the maternity ward and the crematorium, and that is what there is. That's it. And that only is the life that the Christian religion has to do with and to encounter. And therefore, more than ever, being a Christian, if it is an abandonment of God, or of the idea that the universe is supernaturally controlled, the Christian religion fastens itself, therefore, with peculiar and increased fervor to the figure of Jesus of Nazareth. As one wit put it, there is no God, and Jesus Christ is his only Son. Because, you see, what otherwise makes you a Christian? There's something strange about Christianity, in that it shares with Islam and Judaism what we might call theological imperialism. Christians of even the most liberal stripe fervently believe that their religion is the best religion, and they will state it by saying, either Jesus Christ is the only Son of God. That's an orthodox way. As a matter of fact, it isn't really an orthodox way of saying it, but it's the way orthodox people do say it. Or they will say, Jesus is the greatest man that ever lived. The point is that you make a commitment to the following of Jesus as an historical personage. And for some reason or other, people who commit themselves to this exclusive kind of following of Jesus become exceedingly obstreperous, because they will either damn other religions outright, or far more insidiously damn them with faint praise. Old Buddha taught some very good things, you know, and we all are indebted to his great moral principles, but, and then comes this pitch, you see, for the sole following of Jesus as the Lord and Master, head and shoulders above all. Well, the trouble with that has always been that when you get into a theological argument with a person who is a Christian, you get into a situation where the advocate and the judge are the same person. That is to say, Jesus is judged the best man in the world by the standards of Christianity, because those are the standards with which this kind of person judges. And therefore, and you'll find that people who leap to these judgments usually don't know very much about any other kind of religion. The courses on comparative religion in theological schools are shockingly superficial and grossly inaccurate. And so this is coming to the front now, you see. In order to be to belong to the church, really, is to be saved. And to be saved is to belong to the innest in-group. You have to have an in-group, you see. If you want to know who you are, you have to belong to something. Say, if you want to distinguish yourself, because you know who you are because of the people who aren't like you. There you get a contrast. Now, this is the basic arrangement for a church. So, you see, if you want to be in some kind of an in-group, you must put everybody else beyond the pale. St. Thomas Aquinas gave the show away, actually, because he said that the blessed in heaven will often walk to the battlements and look down and delight in the justice of God being properly carried out in hell. So, but you may not believe in hell. You may be very liberal, and after all, it's not nice or sophisticated nowadays to believe in everlasting damnation. But we have new words for it, such as failing to be a real person, sinking below the human level, or entering into final and irremediable psychosis. All these are new words, either for damnation or heresy. And so you join and you know you're saved only if somebody else isn't, if somebody else is damned. It's very difficult to believe or even to imagine a state of affairs where everyone and everything is saved. You have to be a mystic even to think about that, because it requires having a state of consciousness which transcends oppositions. And you can't do that along the line of ordinary logic. You have to have a new kind of logic which takes over at a certain point. And this logic I'm using at the moment by pointing out that damned people and saved people need each other.
Some of them climbed up out of the sewer of degradation and depression and hard times and tests and trials and tribulations. How dare you use a getaway card to escape the call of God? God told me to call you. I'm going to stand flat-footed. I rebuke every power that held you, every addiction that held you. I bind the spirit of anger. I rebuke the spirit of suicide. I come against the spirit of depression. I come against it now.
Anton Szandor LaVey, who is the founder and high priest of the First Church of Satan. Anton Szandor LaVey uses as somewhat of a credo this timeless quote: "Remember, evil backwards spells live." Somehow that never occurred to me.
Never. I mean, I'm not an atheist, in other words, I'm an anti-theist. I don't, in myself, have any desire to live under a permanent, unalterable dictatorship.
They are in a symbiotic relationship with each other. They go together in the same way as the back and the front of something, because if something has a front, it has to have a back too. And so, the very fact that fronts and backs go together indicates that there is a unity between these two opposed sides. So also there is a unity between the damned and the saved. And it's only as you begin to realize that you need the damned people in order to be saved, and that the damned people need the saved people in order to be damned, that you start laughing about it. And that laughter is very subversive. And it's, you know how it is, you're not supposed to laugh in church, and not in courts of law either. There are places where laughter makes people nervous, because it's supposed to be a sign of disrespect. Now, it may not be so at all. Dante said that the song of the angels in paradise sounded like the laughter of the universe.
Which you now see and hear. They heard them speaking in tongues, but what did they see? For them to think they was drunk, they must have thought they was drunk. They were acting like drunks. Drunk again!
But in church, especially any rather more serious kinds of church, laughing is very bad form.
I think I get New Song Church because they're evangelicals, you know, basic Bible-believing Protestants, and that's my home turf. But big, giant Catholic churches are a different animal. They're both overtly Christian, but their buildings set a very different tone and definitely don't relay the same message. So I've got an architect friend named Wade Simpson who designs churches. So I caught up with him and asked him to help me understand the thinking behind the way Catholics build their buildings versus the way evangelicals do it.
Catholic churches over the years tend to want to bring a permanence.
Because if you look at the design of a Catholic church,
built on a rock. It's not going anywhere. This is where we're grounded and we're connected to the heavens. And so there's a lot of openness and a lot of natural light use.
you will notice that it is based upon the design of the courtroom of a king.
And then solid materials, concrete, stone, masonry, those kinds of things.
And if you look at a Protestant church, you will see that it is based upon the design of a law court. Indeed, the Protestant minister wears exactly the same robes as an American judge. And all those pews and box-like stalls are the same you will find in the old-fashioned court with the witness box, jury box, and all that kind of thing. But you see, the original idea of the Christian church, these ancient Roman churches are called a basilica. That means the courtroom of a king, the throne room. The altar is the throne of God. Now, in a courtroom, the king is very nervous, because anybody who takes it upon himself to govern other people and rule them had better watch out. And therefore, he always has his back to the wall. And he is flanked by attending guards and high ministers of state. And just so that nobody will get up and make trouble, he has them either on their knees or flat on their faces when they come into his presence.
A prince must win the favour of the people and dispel any hostility, but he will only be truly secure when he can raise his own army to defend against all comers. Mercenaries cannot be relied on, neither can other people's armies. To be successful, a prince must read history, study war, and know his own land. He must give the appearance of being good, but also know how to be evil. He should not be afraid to be thought of as mean, as giving liberally and spending freely will lead to ruin. He also shouldn't worry about being thought of as cruel, as fear is one of the only things he can control.
And of course, no one must laugh. They'll be laughing at Mr. Big.
A prince should be willing to use cunning if needed, and deception if necessary. He may or may not be loved, but as long as he is not hated, he is secure. Fortresses are of little use, as even though they can be used to defend against outsiders, they do not stop you being betrayed by your own people.
And so this was the pattern, this was the model upon which the Judeo-Christian idea of God was based. It is a political model, and the title of God is taken from the supreme emperors of Persia, the Dayan Khan, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. And so in the English church, at morning prayer, the clergyman gets up and says, Almighty and everlasting God, the only ruler of princes, King of kings, Lord of lords, who dost from thy throne behold all dwellers upon earth, most graciously deign to behold our gracious sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family. That's the picture. And the metaphor, you may not believe, literally, that God sits on a throne, or even has a body to put on one, or that he wears a crown, or that he has a beard. But the image colors your feeling about the character